Um, all right, so let's start by defining what is anxiety and why do we have it. So, and just as a reference, just for next 1 hour, I'm going to use the words worry, stress, and anxiety interchangeably. Okay, so as I think most of you know this, but it's good to for ourselves to kind of remind ourselves about these facts that as human beings, stress and anxiety is actually a protective mechanism, right, for us to survive. What happens is when we are faced with either a new situation or an imagined situation, right, we go through something called as stress appraisal in our brains. What that means is we ask ourselves two things. One, how significant is the situation? And two, can I deal with it? And if the answer is no, meaning no, I can't deal with this, that's when our brain and body, goes into like the producing the stress hormones like cortisol in our bloodstream to get us to prepare. It's a preparation mechanism to deal with the situation that we think we can't deal with. So this is what you and I physically start feeling, right? Like the stress and anxiety, like palpitations, maybe increased heart rate, blood pressure, just general restlessness and anxiety. So that's just really why, or what it is. It is just coming from that preparation uh, of the question that can I deal with this. Now, the second most important part about stress or anxiety is it's a physiological phenomenon, meaning it is not just in our brains or mind, it actually lives in our body, right? And this is very important for us to know, since to deal with stress, now we can use our bodies to fight it equally. And I think this is where a lot of times people think, no, 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 I'm worrying, it's just in my brain, the worry's in my brain. No, worry actually lives in your body, like actually physically in your cells. I'm sure you guys have heard of like inflammation in your cells and bodies and all of the, the cholesterol, like all of the stress related disease that come, right? Because it actually lives in our body. And so, why are we preparing, right? I mean, all of this preparation to deal with this thing that we think is stress is a way for us to control. Because if we can prepare for it, if we can control for it, then we may be able to deal with it. And that is just what it is. Like I say, worrying is basically a false sense of control, where we think, okay, if I can just worry about every situation that can go wrong, and then I can come up with a possible solution in my brain, then when it actually happens, I'll know what to do, and hence I'm in control. Right? So it's a very there's this joke that my teacher said that like a mother sends a telegram through the son, and the telegram says, "Start worrying, details to follow." Right, so so that's just how it is, right? Like we're looking constantly in our survival and vigilance as just human beings to make sure that like we're just wired for survival, to be honest. Not We are not wired for happiness. So that's just really where it is coming from. And um and like, I mean, it's kind of like it makes sense because like if you remember olden days, right, when like Homo sapiens had just arrived on this planet, and lion is running behind you in a savanna, our body produces the stress so that the blood flows to our limbs, our non-essential systems like digestion shuts down so we can actually fight or flight. And that's like really for us to truly survive when a lion is behind us. But today it feels like there's always a line behind us, when even it's not true, right? I mean, like social media constantly and news channels all the time, like exaggerating, what's happening, and especially like COVID, right? Like every morning I wake up and I asked my boyfriend to look up, okay, what is the number today? How many people died, right? And like, what a way to start our day is by counting the people who have died. So and COVID obviously is exaggerating this problem, but in general, this is what it is, right? Like, we are just constantly preparing for survival, and in that preparation to control and to deal with it, we are basically just inducing the stress response in our bodies physiologically, and then that constant feeling of anxiety that stays all day long, and like 24/7, 365 now. So that's, the that's just really what it is. One thing to point out here is that the important part, especially for human beings, right? Because all animals have stress responses. For human beings, the stress can happen not just with real situations, but with imagined situations. So this is where, when we start asking ourselves, what if, right? What if this happens, and what if that happens, and if my family member gets this and I get it, and this, like, just all of the what if scenarios which are imaginary. Now our body starts preparing for survival against those imaginary situations, and that's when the vicious cycle of stress and anxiety sets in. So that's just like what it is. And so to me, let's talk about how to deal with it. There are two, like, things that I really find powerful. Obviously, one is a very simple tool, which is I call reminders, right? What are the things that we are forgetting, and how can we just remember them? These are some basic facts that just kind of ground us back to reality. So, number one, right? You and I are not alone, right? Most people around us are feeling it. Like, most of us feel stress, almost all of us feel stress, just different levels and intensities, right? Based on our individual appraisal of, can I deal with the situation or not? But everybody, like, that's just human behavior to feel stress. Number two, because you and I are feeling stress, nothing is wrong with us, right? Personally, like, what you are feeling is how human beings' genetic coding is. Right? It's like my dog, she's genetically coded to go fetch things, right? So if I throw a ball, she'll fetch it. Nothing is wrong with her if she wants to fetch. That's how dogs are coded. So similarly, we are coded for survival, and stress response is one of the genetic, expressions of that. So nothing is wrong with us because we feel stress. And we are not alone, because all human beings around us are feeling the same stress. Number three, these are just about the things that we may forget, which is, like I said, stress can happen for imaginary situations, right? So we are imagining, like, the what if scenarios. Four, obviously, stress and worry is a response to control the situation. And then five, stress lives in our body. So that is very important, because we think if we can just think about solution and we can think out of stress, it doesn't work that way, because stress actually lives in cellularly. So those are just reminders, right? Of, like, again, you and I are not alone. Nothing is wrong with us. It happens for imaginary situations. It is just our survival control response, and it actually lives in our body. So these are just facts and reminders, if we can tell ourselves and remind ourselves, just to ground ourselves. Now, what are the second tool besides reminder, obviously, is behavior change, right? It could be either physical behavior and mental behavior. Now, physical behavior, I know most of you are going to roll eyes when I say, physical behaviors are the standard stuff that you've heard like bazillion times. They're cliched, right? Like eat healthy, sleep, exercise, meditate, just standard stuff. Nothing, there's no silver bullet, unfortunately, for this body. So I'm not going to harp on why eating and breathing and sleeping and moving are important. But I want to take a couple of minutes to talk about breathing. Like, why breathing and this whole meditation, and why is that so crucial? So because stress lives in our body, we can use our body to fight it. Now, to fight stress, which is a sympathetic nervous system response, we have something called as parasympathetic nervous system. Now, this parasympathetic nervous system, when you activate it, that's when it reduces your heart rate, it reduces like the cortisol in your body. It kind of induces the relaxation mechanism. And how do we activate that nervous system of ours? And because we are physical beings, right, basic sensory physical things, right, like touch, what we see, what we can smell, like aroma, sounds, all of this actually can be used to activate that system. Now, what is the easiest one that you have, which you need no tools for? It's your breath. You always have it, right? So that's why breathing has been used as an exercise to induce relaxation, activate your parasympathetic nervous system. And a very simple way actually is to do a counted breathing, right? So you may, if you Google it, you can look up like 4-7-8 breathing, which is like you inhale for a count of 4, you hold it for the count of 7, and then you exhale for a count of 8. You can do 4-4-4, meaning inhale, hold, exhale. Like it doesn't matter. The count is irrelevant, but basically there is a count that you're kind of set, and then you kind of go about it and stay to it for a couple of minutes. So let's just try that. Maybe we'll do 3 rounds of 4-7-8. And when you're exhaling, you can either exhale through your nose or through your mouth. Both will kind of give you a different sensory feeling. And either is okay, actually, it doesn't matter. So let's just take maybe 1 minute to do. I'll count 4 inhale, 7 hold, 8 exhale. Yeah? Okay. So let's start. Let's start inhaling for count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Last. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right? How does it feel? Thumbs up. So this is like somebody actually called this as we have a perpetual spa that we carry with us. And I love that metaphor. It's like, oh, any day I want to feel like I'm in a spa, all I need to do is just breathe, slowly. And it kind of feels like close my eyes, maybe imagine I'm in an ocean. The same imagination that is triggering the stress imagination, what if scenarios, can also be used to imagine we are on a beach or, whatever is your favorite location, right? So just close your mind, imagine that beach, and just breathe on a count. And that's it. Like that's the simplest tool we have access to. It doesn't take time and it doesn't take anything else. So that's like the very important that I want to talk about. And then I'll just leave at the fact that, eating, sleeping, and moving, all of these are actually a way for our bodies to do a toxic cleansing, right? So when you sleep, there's a chemical wash that happens in our brains, which detoxifies all the chemicals and, bad hormones and stress hormones that have been built up. So that's what it is. It's a chemical wash that happens every day when we eat, sleep, and exercise. So definitely, prioritize things of that nature, especially when we're staying indoors with the whole COVID situation. And the last is our bodies love routine, right? It's if you've probably heard the word circadian rhythm, right, which like makes us feel sleepy at the same time every day. So our bodies are running on a clock, internal clock. So routines really are helpful. Like, so if we can just make a routine of when we sleep and eat and exercise, just that. Doesn't matter what you're actually doing, but if you make it a routine, then it itself will be super beneficial. So those are the physical things that you can do to fight the stress. And I'll take 5 more minutes to talk about the mental behaviors. So mental behaviors, the most important one is attention, right? So let's say I tell you, think of a purple tree. Just by a thumbs up, are you thinking of a purple tree? Okay. Now, don't think of an orange elephant. Don't think, right? You know this trick, right? All of you thought of the orange elephant, right? Because our brains don't know how to process no. Like we are like symbolic, like our brain works on like symbols. So whenever we say don't think of COVID or don't think of all the things that's happening wrong in the world, we will think about it because we don't know the no. All we hear is symbols. So the simple neuroscience of how our brains work is where attention goes, energy flows. Right? So whatever we pay attention to, that's where our energy will go. So every morning if we wake up and start reading the news and what's wrong with the world and start looking at how people are being stupid, let's say outside, and people are not sheltering in, like that's where our energy will go. That's where our stress will kick in. But if we also pay attention to what do we have, right? Like we are getting to spend more time, let's say, with family, and I mean, we don't have to deal with the daily commute any morning, whatever we have right now, right? Like, let's say you are healthy right now and your family members are healthy. So, whatever we are paying attention to, where attention goes, energy will flow. So, just keep that in mind when you're thinking, just always think of what am I paying attention to versus what should I not pay attention to because the not will not work. Right? That's number one. Number two, acceptance. Right? So emotions again live in our body and they are just messengers. Like when you feel anger and sadness and whatever joy, they're just messengers of something. They're not right or wrong, they just are. And so the best way that I use for acceptance for emotions is, I just tell myself this is hard and that's okay. It doesn't have to be easy. Right? This is hard and it's okay. So that's number two. And then number three, kindness. Right? Starting with ourselves, because we all are on this let's figure stuff out and let's get better and let's use this time to clean like the whole garage and whatever it is, right? We're ambitious people. Let's start with kindness with ourselves first, right? Especially if you're feeling stress, the best way for the kindness to show up is the phrase I love, which is I hear you, right? I hear you and I am here for you. So I hear you, I'm here for you. And that's the simplest way to show kindness to ourselves. And to remind, right, that you and I are not alone. There is support out there and we'll figure it out. We are very, very creative people. And whatever is here, it's okay for it to be here. If it's hard, it's okay. And we are here for ourselves. Right? So just to kind of recap, those are the three mental behaviors that we can use or focus, I guess, tools. Attention, where an attention goes, energy flows. So always look out for the question of what am I paying attention to? Number two, acceptance. Whatever is arising, it's okay. The emotions are not right and wrong, they just are, they're messengers. So it's okay. If it's hard, that's okay. It doesn't have to be easy. And third, being kind with ourselves first, right? I hear you and I'm here for you. So those are the three mental tools or behaviors I will leave. And then now I want to open up for Q&A for next, let's say